Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Frederick Winsness with NetHope, and I am pleased to welcome you to another webinar today. We are going to talk about Microsoft's Project Sangam, and we're going to talk about empowering community learning at scale. And we are super pleased to have both Norwegian Refugee Council and Microsoft with us today to talk about this exciting project. Before we get started, I'm going to go over some housekeeping quickly. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so please open the chat window. You do that by clicking the third icon from the right on the bottom of your screen. You can follow along there with questions and comments that are being made. And please post your questions there for the Q&A and discussion section at the very end of the hour today. We are recording this, and both the recording and the slides will be posted to the NetHope Solutions Center, and you will get an email with the links to all of that material that you should feel free to share with colleagues and friends. And towards the end of the session today, you will be presented with a webinar satisfaction poll. Please take a minute or two to answer that so we can improve this webinar series over time. So with that, I'm going to introduce Apurva Chandra from Microsoft. He's the program manager for Tech for Social Impact there, and he's going to introduce the rest of the speakers. So Apurva, over to you.
Yes, so thanks, Frederick, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about Project Sangam and the work that we're doing with the platform and with the great speakers that we have on the slide here today. We're going to be going through a few case studies as well as some next steps on if your organization is interested in using Sangam moving forward. So starting off, we have Gada Khalifa. So she is our Director of Philanthropy in the Middle East and Africa. We have Sean Nicholson from the NRC, who's a global advisor for corporate partnerships. We have Lutz Ziab, who's the founder of Ziab Consulting, and then myself. And we have Alok, who is a senior program manager for Project Sangam. So those are the speakers. We're going to be going through a few slides today, and then we're going to hopefully leave a fair amount of time at the end for questions. So with that, I think we can launch in to what we've prepared for you today. So let me get into that. All right. So Project Sangam is a project that was put together by Microsoft by our engineering team in India, and so it really is about empowering learning at scale. And we'll just go through the agenda really quickly that we have laid out. So first, I'll be giving you a little bit more of an overview on what Project Sangam is and why we're all so excited about it. Then Alok will be giving you a quick demo about what the learner and admin experience of Sangam looks like. Then we'll go through a handful of our customer stories. So Gada will be talking about Binti Million from South Africa. Lutz will be sharing a story about well-told story, and Sean will be discussing the pilot that the Norwegian Refugee Council is working on with Project Sangam. And then I'll wrap things up with some next steps and some frequently asked questions that we've received previously. So with that, we can launch into what Sangam is. And so Project Sangam is a cloud solution that enables delivery of large-scale, far-spread community training with high quality and efficiency. And so what this is, it's an e-learning platform that is optimized for mobile, and it works in low connectivity and no connectivity areas. And during the development of this product, we've seen that there are a lot of use cases for the nonprofit and charity sector. And so we're going to be going through a handful of those use cases today. But we're just very excited about the potential that Sangam can provide. So our vision for Project Sangam first and foremost, it is bridging the skill gap. So helping current and upcoming workforce gain the necessary skills and providing access to meaningful jobs. So you'll see in the use cases that we prepared for you today that we really do try to work with employers who are looking for certain types of skills. And so designing curriculum, designing courses that can easily be delivered to folks who are looking for employment opportunities and improved livelihoods is the core of what Sangam is built upon. Secondly, empowering the underserved. Like most of the communities that we're working with, they've been underserved, and they're looking for better quality of life via vocational training and after-school programs. So Sangam is a tool that we believe can bridge that skill gap and empower the underserved. And thirdly, driving awareness. So we're looking to educate target communities on a variety of topics that can engage and drive a change in behavior. You'll see that we've worked with local governments on campaigns that the government believes will improve livelihoods, bolster communities, and Sangam is a platform and a tool that can aid in that process. So the next question that we tried to answer was, there are a handful of challenges facing folks who are looking for training today. First and foremost, we want Sangam to reach a diverse training audience across multiple locations, and being a platform that's optimized for mobile, it's uniquely positioned to do just that, where we can deliver training across wide swaths of a geographical area and have it managed by a central team. And so this is what we feel like is the secret sauce of Sangam, if you will. We can also see that it's very straightforward to onboard new members, and it's challenging for a lot of platforms to maintain quality control and consistency at scale with classroom-based training. But with the Sangam platform, we're able to maintain a certain quality of training. And we also see that there are a fair amount of budgetary constraints to build, deploy, or adopt an online training solution. But as you'll see when Alok goes through the demo in a few minutes, with Sangam, it is straightforward to onboard new content and manage and see how folks are going through the courses, what content is being consumed, what content isn't being consumed, and being able to iterate accordingly. Lastly, educate. So we're able to monitor the training program and track individual progress, like I mentioned. And each community consists of multiple groups of people with different training needs. So we are able to create custom curriculum for individual learners and really focus the training on what needs each community is looking for the most. And I've talked about the rest of these a little bit, but the users who are on the go and always mobile, users who have low-end mobile devices and poor internet connectivity, and users that are even semi-literate, and they're still definitely looking for skills to improve their livelihoods, and we believe that Sangam is a great platform for doing that. And so I'll just keep going, but those are the training challenges that Sangam seeks to solve. And I'll briefly go through the value pillars that Sangam is built upon, and I've touched upon a few of these in the previous slide. The first two are focused on the learner, so learning made engaging. So Sangam is really optimized for video content, and there are quizzes, exams, there's opportunities to engage with other learners, opportunities to engage with the admin. So even on the go, on a mobile device, we've made learning an engaging process for folks. Also, the learn anywhere aspect. I mentioned that Sangam works in low connectivity and no connectivity areas, and that's a really powerful way that we believe we can deliver training. So folks who, if they're able to access the internet at a hotspot, they're able to download training content and then be able to go through that training content wherever and whenever they choose. So we believe that those two value pillars are really what makes the product unique from the learner perspective. For the organization and admin perspective, it really is a way to empower the grassroots level. So whether you are an organization who's looking to train workers who are out in the field, like providing them with additional skills to do their job, or you're a government who's looking to get certain policies or certain learning campaigns out to citizens. It's a way to deliver that training on a mass scale. And also the ability to make it your own. So for an organization, we have the ability to white label Sangam so that it covers your own branding, your own color scheme. You're able to name it whatever makes the most sense for you and your workers or beneficiaries. So you can really make it your own. And lastly, assessing and measuring. So you'll see when Alok goes through his demo in a little bit, you'll be able to track learner progress. You'll be able to see which courses are getting adoption, and again, which ones are not, and be able to iterate accordingly. And there's the ability to add users in a bulk manner. There's abilities to remove users in a bulk manner, and really the ability to assess and measure provides the enterprise capabilities that large organizations need for a program like this. And so lastly, for my part, just leaving you with some verbatims from learners and from organizations. I won't go through all of these, but you'll see that folks that have used Sangam in the past, both from the learner and the organizational side of things, have found value from it during this early stage of Sangam. And so again, we're very excited about the potential that Sangam has in the nonprofit space and for many of the organizations that you all represent today. So with that, I wanted to hand things off to Alok, who will show you a little bit more about what Sangam looks like from a learner perspective, as well as from the administrator perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Apurv. Thanks for the great overview of the Sangam platform. Now I will just quickly walk through the learner experience and give a sneak peek of the admin experience to the folks on the call. So as Apurv mentioned, like once the platform is set up, right, this is a landing page that the learner would see whenever they open the platform. And as you see, it is completely whiteable where organization can put their own logo, they can put their own banner, and they can and learners can see all the courses which are kind of uploaded to the portal for learners to consume training content. And we also have language control, so depending upon what language the learners prefer, you can change the language.
Hey, Alok, this is Frederick. I'm having some issues with your audio. Could you make sure that you're consistent with your headset?
Yes. Let me try once more.
Thank you very much.
Better now?
Let's proceed. Let's see what happens.
So as I was saying, once the learner has logged into the portal, and we have tried to make login very seamless, where learners don't have to remember any password. They can use their own phone number or social media account like Facebook, Gmail to logging into the portal. And once the learner logs into the portal, we will see this My Course View page where all the courses to which he or she has enrolled into is clearly visible easily. And for each of these courses, they can see the completion percentage, they can see the course name and the more information. And alternatively, they can also go to the course library and they can register for more courses if required. For example, I can see that digital literacy, there are 3 courses, Minecraft or of code 3 courses, and so on and so forth. And I can register for those courses if required. So as you can see, we have tried to make our platform very visual and simple, so that learners who is not very digitally savvy or have difficulty even reading text would be able to seamlessly consume content and because most of the things are very visual, there is no clutter, and the beauty of a platform is that even on a smaller form factor, our platform works very seamlessly well. So for example, if you see it on a smaller form factor, you can see that the UI just adapt to a smaller screen beautifully. So even if a learner is consuming the content on a smaller form factor, it will be very clean and neat UI. The next thing I wanted to cover in the demo is how a learner would consume content. So as Apurva mentioned at the start, that our learner experience is optimized for the video content, so that even in a low connectivity scenario and no connectivity scenario, learners will be able to consume content. So we have tried to kind of optimize and provide a very familiar YouTube-like experience, so learners will be able to consume content on the go. So like as you can see here on the course outline, learners can clearly see all the pending lessons. So the lessons which are marked as green are completed, whereas lessons which are not marked as green are not completed. So learners can easily quickly view the pending lessons and view the content of his choice. And while watching the content, they can actually interact with the peers and seek guidance from experts and peers in the community, so that there's interactability coming into the ecosystem, so that learners are not just learning from the content, but they're able to learn from each other on the portal. Next thing which I wanted to cover was the notification functionality. So like we have this concept of notice board, where all the important announcements that trainers and admins want to send to the learners, they can easily view those announcements in the notice board. Similarly, they can also view all the activities that are happening, like whatever comments that folks are adding, or whatever new courses and activity that has happened in the platform since the last time user has logged in. All those will be easily available for learners to take a look at it via this mechanism. Next, I wanted to cover quickly the admin experience of how things would look from the organization perspective to manage the portal. So from the organization perspective, whatever we just showcase you on the learner experience is something that is customizable and configurable on the management by the management on the admin portal. So first and the foremost is the branding that I was talking about, where you can change the logo, website banner, the color scheme, and as you can see, it's very simple. It's very simple click-based navigation, so that even if a person who is not very digitally savvy or does not have a coding experience, they can just quickly choose whatever color, and they can just quickly configure the platform in a very seamless manner. Similarly, the course content uploading and management is also very simple. So you can see all the courses are categorized under categories, and for each of the courses, I can decide what lessons and quizzes and exam I want to put in. For example, in this particular case, there are 3 lessons, 1 practice quiz, and 1 video. 3 practice quiz, 3 lessons, 1 practice quiz, and 1 exam. It's very seamless for me to kind of quickly do it. And if I want to add 1 more lesson, I just need to give a name and just click and upload any content file which I have. So as you can see, it's very seamless, so that there is no expertise required. It's very seamless and intuitive for anyone to upload content and manage content on the portal. The next thing I want to quickly cover is the user management. So one of the things that we are able, like the reason that we feel that our platform is very suitable for a non-profits or for a large scale training initiative perspective is because we have a concept of groups which helps in ground level mobilization of the learners. So you can create these groups which are managed by individual supervisor or facilitator or the trainers on the ground, who can take responsible of onboarding users to the platform and assigning them courses. And once the courses and training are assigned, they can actually continue to track the learners' activity. So at a group level, every facilitator or trainers on the ground can actually track how much content each of the learners have consumed on the portal, and what exactly and how exactly they're performing on each of the courses which they have been enrolled into. And lastly, at an organization level, the program owner or the administration or the stakeholders in the organization can have a complete visibility of how many learners are getting enrolled into the training program, how many completions are happening, what are the top courses that the learners are completing, what are the courses which no one is registering or no one is completing. They can get the various insights at category level, at course level, at individual performance level. So there's a whole it's not just about the ease of managing and delivering the content, but the aspect of kind of creating these dashboards and ability to measure and track the learners' progress in a very seamless manner is what makes a platform very very suitable and very ripe for the non-profit scenarios. And an organization can always download this content and do custom analysis or create custom dashboard using Excel or any of the visualization software, so that any custom reporting that is required is actually possible from a platform. So that's pretty much what I had, a very high level overview of the platform. I will ask Apurva and to take back the control and proceed with the next level of agenda items in the session.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Alok. And I've seen a few questions come through the chat window. I know Alok inspired a few questions, and so I think we'll try to get through them at the end of our presentation. But thank you again, Alok, for walking us through both the learner and the administrator portal. It made it hopefully that brought the Sangam platform to life for many of you who haven't seen it previously. So with that, I'm gonna hand things over to Gada, who is gonna talk about the 20 million project. So we're gonna first have a slide, and then we're gonna go into a video. So I'm gonna go to this, and then Gada, if you're there.
Hi. Yes,
right.
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So good day to all, or good morning, good evening, or afternoon, depending where you are sitting right now. I see the slide is not there.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, thank you. So I am the lead for philanthropy for Middle East and Africa, and we have a number of partnerships with local governments and nonprofit in Middle East and Africa at different stages right now, where we are leveraging Sangam. The slide is missing again, Apurva.
Yeah, sorry.
Where we are leveraging.
We'll leave it for you right here. Okay.
Yeah, do. Where we are leveraging Sangam platform, e-learning platform. This includes an initiative in Egypt to develop the capacity of 5 million youth. Another one in Saudi Arabia to upskill 1 million youth using Sangam Arabic version, as well as in South Africa to upskill 1 million youth and create employment employment opportunities for them in South Africa using the English version. To focus on the South Africa one, the current unemployment rate in South Africa is an all-time high of 29 or 30%. The youth unemployment rate is higher in the Gauteng province. It is at 46%, which is a very high unemployment rate. For that purpose, and to address the unemployment rate among the underserved population in the province, the Gauteng provincial government launched an initiative called Chepe 1 million. That's a signature program to provide the widest possible range of economically excluded young people in the province to access training and on-job work experience and improve their chances of being employed or self-employed, as well as address young people on pathway to earning, and to enable businesses of all sizes particularly including small and micro businesses to improve their productivity. One of the core skills required for employment in South Africa is digital skills. The way they put it is that if a youth doesn't have an email, he doesn't have an opportunity to get a job. So the opportunity to provide scaled learning opportunities for youth on digital skills is of great importance, and this is where Sangam comes in, and where the localized Centimillion platform of Sangam comes in. Microsoft is partnering with Gauteng province and Harambee. It's a local nonprofit well known for employment programs and employment efforts. And they are currently running the Cinti learning platform. It is being leveraged across a range of community outreach points, including national libraries, schools, civic colleges, and it is to be scaled to SMEs. Through the platform, the initiative is better able to empower the workforce of today and the futures. Our impact numbers, or the Cinti platform impact number to date is 21,000 completed all the digital courses, all of them, 122K enrolled, or 122,000 enrolled in multiple courses. We have an 8% conversion rates of youth into actual jobs. So 8% already have jobs. Do take into consideration that the beneficiaries are a combination between current job seekers and future job seekers. And I'm through with the slide. Now let's go into the video. Aprova? Video? Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Being in this community is hard. Most of the youth don't work. There's a high pregnancy rate.
I think that if I was not living in a township, I'd have a better education and maybe I would have better life.
In South Africa, you find a situation where we've got a 26% unemployment rate, and almost 50% of that is youth.
It's so frustrating to the young people because you find that some of them, they've completed their studies, but after that, they don't get jobs.
Most people in those communities have never touched a keyboard. They've never even sat in front of a screen. But digital literacy skills are a requirement for even your basic entry jobs. What Microsoft have launched in Sebokeng is a program called Centimillion, which basically means touch a million.
We invite students to come in and learn the basic knowledge of using a computer. After they have done the course, they can create CVs, make slides for presentations, and they can send emails. Opportunities like this are important because when you get called for a job, at least you have a skill that you can showcase.
One of the things you're solving immediately is the fact that they're going to be able to go online, apply for jobs without leaving their own communities.
It saves them money because they don't have to travel all the way from here to where we are. We come to them.
I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, but I found it very easy because there are people that help you, so it was great.
I think the program is going to assist them to be better citizens as they will be more enlightened.
The youth unemployment problem is a problem that is not just a Microsoft problem, it's a problem of society. And if we do not solve the story, especially at the youth level, we are creating a situation that could implode for us as a country.
I think the community needs to own the program and make it theirs.
Youth have to stand up and do whatever it takes to make sure that their lives are improved.
The target we've put is to train 1 million people, but it's not something that can be done overnight. We're taking our communities with us into the fourth industrial revolution. And we're hoping that this program is the beginning of that journey.
We apologize for those that were on the WebEx web app. You were not able to see that video. but what we're going to make sure is to post the video to the webinar site, and we'll send you that link in a follow-up email. Back to you, Apurva.
All right. Thank you for that, Frederick. Yeah, and apologies for those of you on the web app. And thanks, Sada, for walking us through the Thinking case study. And so with that, I'm going to hand things off to Lutz, who's going to share his experience with Well-Told Stories.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect, good. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lutz Ziop. As you have seen from the introduction, I am running my own consultancy focused on skills, learning, and strategies. But I should probably mention that actually very recently, earlier this year, I've been with Microsoft also for over 15 years, and I used to run the Microsoft Learning Organization in the last 5 years. I worked in Africa as part of the Africa Initiative, and hence a lot of my focus and my clients are also in Africa, like Well-Told Story. And I want to tell you a little bit about that organization and their experience with Sangam. Well-Told Story is really a quite unique media, communication, and research organization that was founded in Kenya about 10 years ago, and they're now also in Tanzania for the last 4 or 5 years. They have a very clear social mandate. Basically, it's about youth empowerment and giving young people, as they will call it, agency for their own lives. You see their mission statement here. We break down barriers so that young people can take control of their own future. Let's move to the next slide. What they've accomplished over the last couple of years. Barry, can you move to the next slide, please? What they have accomplished over the last couple of years is to create one of the most well-known and broadly distributed social media youth brands in East Africa called Shujaz. They have not less than 5.6 million regular followers in Kenya in the youth category that they define as 15 to 24, and another 3 million youth in Tanzania. And they managed to accomplish that through a unique combination of multi-channel, authentic, accessible media that literally includes everything like radio, SMS, comic books. In fact, they happen to be the publisher or the biggest publisher of comic books in sub-Saharan Africa. They use phone USSD communication, and of course, nowadays social media like Facebook or Instagram and YouTube as well, combined with in-person events. So it's really a very holistic, integral system of how they're trying to reach their target audience. And they call it Well-Told Story because really their way of communicating is storytelling, understanding where the youth stand, what they need, and being able to communicate with them. Next slide. One of the latest initiatives that they have undertaken is to really tackle the youth unemployment issue and problem. And obviously we've heard already before that this is the case, and many of you will know that across Africa. A couple of sobering, I believe, numbers for Kenya. About 1.3 million Kenyan youth enter the job market every year, but only 10%, i.e. 1 in 10, will find what we would define as a formal job. So most of them have to make sure that they somehow get through life, and we often call that hustling. They hustle through life. And they also lack the qualification to secure further education. And so the basic idea here was that they are pursuing, and that I have the privilege of helping them, is can we in a way find a way to improve the life of those hustlers by making them more knowledgeable, giving them better information, better connections, and you name it, in what they have to do anyways. Because what we know about talking to them is most of them don't even want further education because they had a bad experience with education. And when you really double click on it, is they don't want to be taught, but they do want to learn. And the learning often happens by doing, by following their peers, exchanging information and experiences with their peers and so forth. And obviously by over a third of them, and the number is quickly growing, having access already to smartphones, clearly that's an opportunity to reach them in a more scalable and effective way. So the whole idea about dealing and engaging with the hustlers was, can we create something, and of course it's not a former MBA, but something that they internally call the Hustler MBA that will help them on their journey to self-employment, entrepreneurship, or actually micro enterprises. Next slide. So a couple of weeks ago, and we are still in pre-launch officially, the website with what they call now Hustle Fitty went live. You see the web address there on the slide as well. And so if you want to, you can check it out. It's actually globally accessible. And it is, of course, using the Sangam platform to currently provide 2 learning tracks. One is the Hustle Fitty Starter Pack. Basically, young people that kind of contemplate making hustling a more formal part of their life, but don't quite know how to start and where to start. And the other one is called the Advanced Pack for hustlers that already have a business, but want to learn how to be more effective and so forth. Between those 2 tracks, they have currently about 15 courses that they published, which have been comprised out of over 700 video segments that they have shot over the last couple of weeks and months, all of them basically youth talking to themselves. So they went out into the marketplace and found a lot of people that already are running a hustle business and have used them as the experts to help other hustlers to become even better or even get into that kind of entrepreneurship spirit and micro enterprises. It's also worthwhile to notice is, of course, they use the English version of the platform, as you can see there, but the content itself is in the local language, and it's not only Swahili, it's actually Sheng, which is a modern combination and mix of English and Swahili that the target audiences speak. What I've put up there is 2 screenshots. On the left-hand side, you see what it looks like on a phone, on a smartphone. And on the right-hand side, you see what it looks like on a tablet or computer. So access there. There's also a mobile application that you can download. And so one of the benefits of Sangam is that it's able to actually serve up the content in many different formats on many different platforms. So you have a lot of capabilities. Let's move to the next slide. So what I try to do here is to give you a couple of insights and learnings that we have developed over the last couple of weeks and a month that we've been working on it. It's very clear to us, and remember, maybe with the exception of myself and one other person within Well Told Story, they are all communication experts or researchers, you name it. They're not learning management system experts. And so it's really imperative that the LMS is easy to use, easy to deploy, easy to administer, and that content administration becomes is very simple. That's indeed what we have learned and have figured out, and we are happy with that. The other one is, and I mentioned it already briefly, it's really important that you don't force your audience, especially on the African continent, to kind of choose the device that you want to prefer. You really have to go where they are. And so the broad choice of devices that are being supported, and especially the web access that doesn't force you to have additional download, is very, very important because it helps the youth to be very economic with their with the data, and they really are sticklers when it comes to how they use the data. You see the last bullet point there on the reduced data usage is very relevant. In fact, one of the painful lessons that we learned is they're using a lot of even browsers that are again optimized for lower data, and there's one of the browsers that is being used quite often, which we in outside Africa barely use, which is the Opera Mini browser, has a setting that allows you to save as much data as possible. And we worked actually with the Sangam team to find out ways how to even service up content and learnings in those kind of environments. So all those fine-tunings become really, really important in an African environment. The other thing, and we've seen that from the presentation, if you don't have to worry about your own report building, analysis tools, you name it, because they come ready built in, you can again, as a content provider, as a designer, you can focus on an analysis rather than learning how to write reports and so forth. So I would say in a nutshell, what you and I saw, a question earlier on came already, can you please talk to the capabilities that Sangam as an LMS has? I'm a technical expert, but very much an educator as well. And I would say my conclusion for Sangam is you have all of the core functionality that is really necessary. but you don't have a lot of the unnecessary frills, which typically makes a product easier to, harder to deploy, harder to understand, and definitely more data hungry and so forth. I like that kind of a balance between the must-have and the focus on the core things that are important. The other thing that I would like to point out is why we're talking about Sangam as an LMS. One always has to bear in mind that at the end of the day, the learning management system job is to help you and provide you with the necessary platform and the support. At the end of the day, the learning experience itself is very much determined by the content, the design, the curriculum approach, you name it. If you remember the picture I showed you just on the previous slide, you see a very kind of uniform way of how we present it. It's actually the real presenters that are on the little tiles that incentivize people to get into the thing. You would be surprised. Thank you for jumping back. So if you look at it now on the right-hand side, if you really look at it, and someone talked about can you white label it? Yes, you can. So you see the red color is typical well-told story in Shuzaz. You see the logo, you name it. But at the end of the day, 80% of what the user sees and interacts with is actually what we, as the content providers, put in. And it took us literally days and weeks to figure out how to make it really, really attractive. Thank you for jumping back, Frederick, and go back to the last slide again. The other thing that's really important is to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean if you open up shop for learning that people will come. You really have to think through how to promote and evangelize the offering. One of the things that we are playing around with at Well Told Story, and that's what you see on the left-hand side, is whether we can use local evangelists, again, people, for example, that are running like a small shop or something, to become like enablers for youth to come together as a learning group and study. I think Radha commented on that as well. One of the reasons why 20 Million has taken off so well is because they have found a local partner in South Africa that provides additional on-the-ground support for the otherwise online hosted Sangam provided learning. The other thing that is really, really important is, as far as I'm concerned, is to pay very, very close attention to the ongoing feedback and the constant data analysis, because it's so easy to go astray. And that's why we are with Well Told Story right now with Hustle Fitty. We're kind of dissecting and really going deep on analysis of user behavior and so forth, so that we really understand what works and what doesn't work. Let me stop right there. Hopefully I gave you a bit of an impression of how Sangam is supporting the Hustle Fitty program.
Yes. So thank you so much for that, Lutz. And I think what Gada's covering of Finty, as well as Lutz's covering of Well Told Story, I think this group here has seen two deployments that are further along. I think we want to transfer now over to Sean with the Norwegian Refugee Council, who are at the very, very beginning stages of their deployment. And so I want to hand it off to him to talk a little bit about his initial experience with it and what their aspirations are.
Wonderful, Philip, many thanks, and hello to everyone on the call. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'll take that as a yes until someone shouts otherwise. So think of time. As the Perva was saying, we're fairly early on the journey of using Sangam, and in a way, we started, from the question of whether there are global platforms out there that allow us to deliver content, and we mean, that work across multiple countries, multiple sorts of infrastructure, multiple locations, sometimes multiple legal jurisdictions may come into it, that allow us to reach both the people that we serve and our staff and some of the people who are sort of growing in between. And with that, can it be done in a way that is, very low management, because we don't have tons of IT people everywhere, and obviously in a way that is very cost effective to run. And so some of the aspirations that we had when we had some of the conversations with the Microsoft team and things that got us excited about Sangam were some of the things mentioned earlier, the offline use and the low bandwidth areas. We have some places where we operate where bandwidth is good. I'm sure some of you on the call, like us, operate in places where bandwidth is incredibly expensive, unreliable, non-existent, and some of the platforms that we use today for training don't cope with that well. We're also looking at, we're trying to move very much to the cloud as an organization, and to what extent can we offer a central service that has some global content, but also allows us to devolve content creation and maybe even more importantly, user management to each of the countries, not necessarily even the country. Sometimes it may be down to a region within a country, because the nature of what we do, whether it's how we're funded, whether it's local language, we can't run everything centrally, or we can't without there being a high cost. Yet at the same time, we can't provide an infrastructure that goes to each country. We need to have a global solution, but with local management. For our donors, the issue of things like, and for ourselves, for our decision making, granular insight and reporting and accounting. Is there a tool that allows us to account to the participant level in each country or each program that allows us to charge back while still running it as a global infrastructure? And of course, things like ease of use for the authors and for the students who are using the system. So there's a range of sort of fairly large, weighty questions that interest us. It's very much about, can this be a global platform to help us deal with not just the million people in education that we worked with last year, but also some of the other millions of people we deal with maybe in other areas, going back to, as Apurva said, about using it for awareness building as much as sort of education in the traditional sense. In terms of how we're going through the journey, we're starting with a pilot. That pilot is starting to kick off. We have the cloud configuration set up. We have some of the staff on board helping it. And it's going to be around training our education staff. We have a couple of thousand education staff, the ones who delivered that million people that we educated last year. And we have a curriculum that is special around how you deliver education in conflict situations. And we need to make sure that all our staff are working to that same ability, that same level of knowledge. But our staff have a range of abilities, a range of locations. Some of them are NRC staff, some of them are not NRC staff. So we have a system that can go outside of our traditional identity systems and access systems. And our content currently is available in Office. How easy is that to upload? So we'll be kicking that pilot off basically about now. Everything has come together flat to start happening. We will use our content. We're also going to do some other stuff with Microsoft's digital literacy content in some other areas. I won't touch on that here. And we do have some learnings even now, and some of them are learnings or some of them are questions. There's things like, currently Sangam is still young. As of today, we have to do updates every month to it. I know working with the Sangam team, that will soon go away in a couple of months, and it will be a true cloud service, which means that our overheads for our IT team are very, very low at that point. Some of the ways Sangam is configured for accounting in Azure. Today, we're trying to work out how do you configure it so you can have a global system, but you can do accounting of Azure usage at a level that allows us, per country or per project that is being funded by donors. That's quite interesting. Obviously, it works well with some of the Microsoft Active Directory and things like that. It also works with sign up using mobile phones. We want it to work with Okta because we use Okta for our identity. I think that will work. We're working on that. I think that will work successfully. There's some other issues, by the way, which weren't on the slide. They're just worth mentioning. How do you manage a classroom? Sangam is very much about the individual. Some of the very cool features are, anyone with a smartphone can register with their number. Is it a classroom tool or is it a series of individuals in a class? Do we need to change some of our traditional models of how we deliver? And the other one linked to that is privacy. Obviously, given in our case, some of the people we serve, are there privacy issues if we're working in certain geographies or across conflict zones and that sort of stuff? Again, these are all things for us to explore and find out. We're fairly optimistic at this stage, but obviously once we have some results, we can come back. And maybe a final point that I think is quite cool. Sangam is young, as sort of we were saying at the beginning there. The Microsoft team is really responsive. I have to say, Alok and Apurva have been very responsive whenever we have questions. I very much feel that we're part of influencing the roadmap. So if there are others here who are interested and want to influence that roadmap, I would encourage reaching out to them, just because I think it's a very good time to be part of the product. I'll stop there.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Sean. And so, and thank you to all of the speakers who have shared their experience thus far with Sangam. So Gata, Lutz, and Sean. So I wanted to wrap up with some next steps, as well as try to address some of the questions that I've seen come through the chat window. So where can I learn more about Sangam? You may be asking. So as you might expect, there's a website you can go to, and I see that Frederick just put them into the chat window. So microsoft.com/projectsangam.com. You can get a lot more information about what we chatted about today. I've also created a form where if you enter in your information, we'll follow up with you to provide additional context, as well as just to keep you in the loop about product updates and that sort of thing. And then again, like a little bit more detailed questions, like one, how can you go about deploying Sangam in your organization if you're so interested? So fill out the form that I just talked about, and we'll follow up. So there are some forms like deployment forms, implementation forms, and we'll work with you to create the use cases and create a whole setup, a whole implementation plan for you. And then the question I bet a lot of you are asking is, how much does Sangam cost? So Sangam is free to deploy into your Azure instance, and then costs are then derived on a cloud consumption basis. So it's challenging for us to come up with an average cost per organization, because this is dependent on the number of users you have, the volume of content stored, as well as the amount of content consumed per user. We do have a calculator that, again, if you fill out the interest form, we'll follow up with a lot more details on that. I did want to mention that eligible nonprofits can apply for a grant to Microsoft, and we will then work with you to cover the first year of Sangam use, because we are still very much in a learning mode, and especially for nonprofits, we want to make sure that you have the ability to use and test out Sangam and understand what works and what doesn't for your users. And so we want to make sure that for the first year at least, you're able to do that without incurring Azure costs. So a lot more information if you're able to fill out the form. And I know we have about 5 minutes left to answer additional questions. So Frederick, I wasn't sure the best way to address these. I know you've been monitoring the chat window.
I have been, and we have more questions than we have time for, so we'll dive into them real quick. And what we'll try to do is to create a Q&A document addressing the questions we're not able to get to. There were some questions up front around learning management system capabilities and all that. So it's a training content platform. Can you discuss what learning management system type features are included in Sangam? And another question along those lines was in terms of LMS functionality for blended learning, can trainers send individualized feedback according to their performance? So and Sean talked a little bit about this, but if you have some other thoughts, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, so the short answer is yes. And I think for the longer answer, I'd invite Alok to respond. But the short answer is yes. I mean, administrators do have the ability to chime in with their user groups. Can ask questions, and administrators can chime in with answers, but I'll let Alok, if he can come off of mute, just answer in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so this is about the two-way communication, right? Like the grading, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, as Apol mentioned, right now we don't have capabilities in the platform to allow admins and trainers to add manual grading on the platform for the learners. Like, it's not possible right now for admins to do some classroom-based assessment and add the marks of those assessments in the platform right now inbuilt. But that's something that, organizations, if they want to build it, they can extend the capability, because Sangam platform provides a lot of APIs so that custom development can be done on top of it. So by default, as of today, the functionality is not available. but if organization is interested in enabling those workflows, then it can be built on top of it by leveraging the APIs that Sangam platform has.
So look, we're still having some issues with the audio, but we'll make sure that we capture that answer and put that in the Q&A document.
Yeah,
so we get that together. So there was another couple questions. Is there a demo version that can be that interested organizations go through to ensure relevance to their objectives?
Yeah, so there are a handful of demo resources that we can provide to folks. I know Alok and team are working on an improved demo experience that should be ready shortly, but short answer is yes, and the longer answer is that there's a better demo version coming.
And I'm going to dive into these questions and we'll go until we have to stop.
Let's do a speed round.
How are learners supported online in case the trainer realizes such is needed for some learners? So do you have like some online learning capabilities?
Sorry, go ahead, Alok.
So Frederick, we are basically talking about online classroom training?
Not necessarily. I think it's intended if somebody's running into issues, either there's real-time support issues, or if somebody goes through a learning path, some kind of intervention by the trainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that case, there is a concept of discussion forum which I briefly walked through while walking through the platform demo. So the learners can actually ask their queries, and whenever they have any doubts or they need any help while consuming content, they can post their message in the discussion forum, and then other peers in the community and the admins and the trainers can reply to those messages, so that there's a collaboration happening, and then learners can get first-hand support from the admins and the peers in a very seamless manner. So whenever they have any doubt, just click on the discussion forum and ask your questions, and admins can respond to them.
Excellent, interesting. There was a question for Sean, and the question was, what's the split between the internal and external use of Sangam that you're planning with Norwegian Refugee Council, and what staff groups will you target?
The staff group we're targeting is our educational people. And most of them are not within NRC directly. They're sort of more on sort of stipend relationships, if you like. So that's the target for the pilot. The wider tests that we hope to do that aren't part of the pilot but people are already discussing is we have people in a number of countries who are asking and wanting to test, can we use this to deliver content for other programs, including legal advice, and even WASH has come up for some sort of training around that. And that will be at a much larger scale if that goes ahead, but facing the people we serve. That won't be our start, so that'll be at scale.
Excellent. Apurva, any last-minute comments for you before we close things down?
I would just like to add on top of it what Sean mentioned. So we have one of our customer in India who is leveraging the Sangam platform both for internal as well as external work, external audience. So from that particular customer which has gone live right now, they have around close to 6,500 internal employees which are part of the organization, and they have more than 1.5 lakh external audience in terms of the on the ground feet volunteers, beneficiaries, and everybody on the ground, which are getting trained on the platform. So that's the scale at which we have been working with one customer, which kind of might give a overview or which might give a flair of how big is the customer segment that we have onboarded in terms of like the scale at which the platform can be used and leveraged in a very seamless manner.
Purva, maybe clearly there's scale to this. Maybe you can translate the lakhs and number there.
Sorry, it's basically 150K. Sorry for that.
No worries. So I know we are bumped up against time, and I know we're a minute over. So I just want to take a second to thank everyone for joining us today. If you are interested in learning more, I hope you do take a minute to fill out the interest form that we have linked here. More than happy to have individual conversations with folks as well. So yeah, that's it. Thanks again for spending an hour with us learning about Sangam, and look forward to hearing from many of you soon.
Thank you very much, Purva, for putting this on. Thank you also for Norwegian Refugee Council to step in and talk about their early experience, and all the speakers. We are at the very end today, so I thank the audience also for excellent questions and interaction. Please look for an update from us in terms of where you find the recording for this. And also we will be posting the links that is on the slide here in the follow-up email and on the web posting as well. And last but not least, if you could please fill in the webinar satisfaction poll, that'd be very helpful. And I wish everybody a great rest of your day, evening, wherever you might be. We will be back in touch soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.